Friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your ears and eyes, because today on Resource Review we're looking at 3 resources for primary Shakespeare. They are a unique Shakespearean venue, a textbook to improve language skills, and a theatre website. Recommending today's resources, we have Dr. Vivienne Griffiths. Vivienne is head of the School of Education at the University of Sussex and a specialist in English and drama. On the panel today, we have Glynis Wiles, an AST and Year 6 teacher at Oxley Park Primary School in Milton Keynes, and Colin Hinson, a freelance education consultant and author. And our resource investigator, Matthew Tosh, will be out and about seeing what teachers and pupils make of the resources. Well, Viv, let's talk about your first recommendation, and this is Shakespeare's Globe. Tell us about this resource and why you like it.
I think, first of all, the venue itself, the theatre, is a very exciting place to visit. It's a replica of Shakespeare's Globe Theatre on the South Bank in London. And for children who haven't been there before, it makes an immediate impact when they go into the building. And the tour itself will tell them a bit about the history of Shakespeare's time in the theatre. The workshops themselves are full of very exciting activities for the children to take part in, and the people that lead the workshops are very skilled both in acting and in teaching, and they'll consult with the teachers beforehand to really focus the workshop on the needs of the children and the age group.
Well, making his first entrance of the day is our very own strolling player, Matthew Tosh, who went down to the Globe to see a tour and a lively action workshop.
All the world's a stage, but at Key Stage 2, it's the Globe that matters. And today, Year 6 pupils from Langley Green School in Berkshire are arriving for an introduction to Shakespeare and his world.
Go!
Act 1, and our budding thespians are starring in a lively action workshop.
After 3, 1, 2, 3. Right. I do not, nor I cannot love you. I do not, nor I cannot love you. Okay, now.
Act 2, and our troupe are now on a tour of the Globe.
On a hot sunny day, 1,000 people all crammed in like this, what would the atmosphere be like?
OK then, Baldic, you're the teacher here, so what's brought you to the Globe today?
Well, we've been studying Shakespeare in the classroom, and really we just wanted a way to really build up the learning that the children have. Shakespeare is often seen as quite a boring topic, and what we really wanted to do was bring it to life, and I think they've done that excellently so far. The children have been involved in a workshop organised by the Globe Theatre, which has really involved a lot of word work and emphasis on drama, so it's all linked in with how the words have a more powerful effect on the children.
And what benefits does coming to the Globe bring to the children?
I think it's brought Shakespeare to life in a way that we would find it difficult to do in a classroom.
Well, Hermione, the curtain's down on our production here at the Globe, but the Resource Review show must go on, so it's back to you in the studio.
Viv, it's a wonderful looking destination, but not all schools are going to be able to make the journey, are they?
That's true, but I think there are 2 other alternatives. One is that there's workshops for teachers themselves. They usually run at the weekend or in the holidays. The other thing, which is accessible to everybody, is the website itself, and that's got a lot of resources and ideas on it about the productions that are being performed at the time, actors writing diaries, working up their characters, and then letters describing the performances of a particular play.
Well, Glynis, what do you make of it as a resource?
I think it's a wonderful resource. It's lovely if the children have the opportunity to visit the Globe. It really does bring Shakespeare alive, but unfortunately, as you've said, Viv, it's not easy to take children from anywhere in the country to. I think the cost of £7 for the day, and then on top of that, transport costs might be too much for wherever you are in the country. Also, like Viv mentioned, the web resource, we've used the virtual tour of the Globe. That's amazing. The children loved that.
Colin, what do you make of this resource?
Well, the experience of the Globe is absolutely something that no child should really miss. But I felt that the workshop they were doing was something that I felt could be done in the classroom. Why go to the Globe to do that particular workshop?
It's a good point, but I think it's the combination of being able to go just outside and see how those activities you've done in the big room, the workshop room, can be transported onto the stage. The children will have the opportunity to actually go onto the stage and see what it looks like to stand there and maybe say a few lines.
OK, well, time now to move on to Viv's second choice of resource for us today, and it's a textbook called The Language of Shakespeare. Viv, explain this one to us and why you like it.
Firstly, because it's by one of my favourite authors about Shakespeare teaching, Rex Gibson, and he's written a lot of books about active approaches to Shakespeare which really focus on the language and bring it to life, and he uses a lot of role play and drama. Now, this particular book, which I think is suitable for Key Stage 2 as well as the bottom end of Key Stage 3, which is what it's designed for, is full of lovely illustrations with the insults themselves highlighted in the speech bubbles. So that's just an example of where you could start as a teacher with these rather unusual insults, things like cream-faced loon and knotty-pated fool, and do a lot of work on language. Other pages will deal with things like the imagery that Shakespeare uses. The children are encouraged to write short scenes or write short plays and then to perform them. So they're thinking about expressive way of performing to each other, which again gets the lines off the page.
Well, I can certainly tell that you love this resource, but to find out whether it's a tragedy or a triumph in the classroom, let's go back to Matthew. He visited Ranelagh School in East London, where AST teacher James Biddulph is working with his Year 6 class on the Scottish play.
The language of Shakespeare is divided into different sections, each containing 3 units. Now, the units themselves are further divided down into different areas. You can see here we've got the purpose, got the text itself. There's a key features area which shows you summaries, a section on language skills, and this is where children can work on their vocabulary, grammar and punctuation. Now, throughout the book, there's lots of colourful illustrations. There's a really helpful glossary at the back. And also, the Shakespearean English is highlighted in red and the modern English equivalent is given. Now, before something wicked this way comes, let's see if Language of Shakespeare can cast a spell over James Biddulph's Year 6 class.
How can you make it a dramatic opening? What could you do to make it dramatic, to capture the audience?
There to meet with Macbeth. I come, brave Malkin, can fill the air!
Well, James, we've got your class working nice and quietly inside. Can you talk us through the session today?
I've used lots of the ideas from here and tried to engage the children by actually doing it rather than giving them a book and saying work through exercise 5 to 6. The first thing I want to do is to create an atmosphere, create a mood to engage the children and then think of words that would describe an atmosphere. And we moved on to looking more closely at the words that Shakespeare used, and that led towards a greater understanding of how they could write their ideas to make it more dramatic.
What do you particularly like about this resource?
It's easy to follow for teachers. I think it would be difficult for children to follow. Some of the activities by themselves I would find quite dry. But I think doing it as a group and modelled by a teacher, they can be quite exciting.
So to summarise?
It's a useful teaching resource for teachers, but I think it would be difficult for children to follow.
Thank you very much. And on that note, let's go back to the studio.
Colin, what do you make of this as a resource?
I would reserve this as a resource for the teacher so that he or she can model the activities within this, and there's some excellent activities there to fit the particular needs of the pupils in his or her classroom. For instance, I felt that the exercises on sonnets, the exercises involving iambic pentameters were too complex.
Viv?
I think it is a very useful resource because it's user-friendly. You can very easily dip in and out of it. You don't have to wade through pages and pages to find the activities. They're set out for you very easily. And I think that any teacher could easily find things that they could use with their classes.
Glynis, what do you make of this resource?
I did particularly like a section on imagery, And I think the opening pages of this text, this focus unit, would be perfect. I mean, it's colourful, it's set out in a nice way, it's got what they're going to be learning, the key features of imagery, and then some questions to check their comprehension. I like that.
Well, time now to move on to Viv's third choice of resource, and that's the Macbeth pages from the Sheffield Theatre website. Now, Viv, there are hundreds of websites out there, so what makes this one stand out?
I like it for similar reasons to the Globe Theatre website, because it's linked to an actual theatre and it's linked to performance of Macbeth that they did at the Sheffield Crucible.
Now, what is actually on the site that you like?
Well, what I like about the resource particularly are the detailed ideas and activities for lessons. So, for instance, they give some extracts from the play, and I think the choices of the scenes that they focus on are particularly good ones. So the witches at the beginning, the appearance of Banquo's ghost, Macbeth just before the murder of the King, Duncan. And then taking each extract, they give ideas that are detailed, from warm-up exercises to individual activities, pair activities and whole group activities. So just to take one, the one about Banquo's ghost I think is a particularly good one here. And it's a whole class bit of drama looking at the banquet scene. The children sit in a circle and the teacher could create a really fantastic atmosphere here, maybe dim the lights in the hall and then go round and just tap an individual child on the shoulder to show their reaction at seeing Banquo's ghost. So I think it's a lot of atmosphere creating, but the general idea is spelt out in quite a lot of detail. Right. The same with the witch's spell, which is the next one shown.
Right, OK, so some really nice ideas.
I think there's some lovely ideas, yes.
I mean, what do the panel think? Glynis, is this a website that would give you ideas?
I've not come across it before. I think it's a really good website for ideas. I like the warm-up ideas, and you could use that with any Shakespeare text, not necessarily Macbeth.
Colin, what do you think?
Well, I thought it was a nice sort of amalgam of the other two resources that we've looked at. You know, it's drama and it's language, and it brings those two together so that you're using both of those particular skills, you know, with this website. When I looked at it, first of all, I must admit the first thing I thought was it looked a bit dull. It means perhaps that the teachers won't be distracted, you know, that they because it's just an ordinary web page with nothing much on there apart from text. It means that the teachers can focus much more on those activities that they suggest rather than being taken off to one side by a nice video or something.
Yes, I think it's the activities themselves, and there's plenty of follow-up ideas as well.
Great, well thank you all very much. I'm afraid that's all we've got time for, but to recap, the three resources that we've looked at today are Shakespeare's Globe, including an Introduction to Shakespeare and His World tour and lively action workshop, The Language of Shakespeare from the Cambridge University Press, and Macbeth Teachers Resources, which is part of Sheffield Theatre's website. For more information about the resources discussed today, go to our website, that's teachers.tv/resource review, or email us, resourcereview@teachers.tv. A very big thank you to our panel, to Viv, to Glynis and to Colin. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time on Resource Review. Bye-bye.